Turn up your sound system to the sound of Carlos Santana in the GMB.
Hello and welcome. If that opening music sounded familiar, it's not surprising. It's by a man who's remained at the forefront of the music industry, fusing salsa, blues, rock and jazz, and setting the standard for guitarists around the globe. From his early days defining the sound of the 1970s to his most recent collaborations with cutting-edge artists from the world of hip-hop and rap, he's been bridging boundaries between languages, cultures, and even generations with his distinct sound. Fantastic sound. Guitar legend Carlos Santana has spent the past year on his Live Your Light tour, and he launches the Asia leg in Dubai this month, and he's joining us from San Francisco in California. Carlos Santana, great to have you on the show.
Thank you for inviting me. It's great to be here.
Well, I've got to ask you, this is a huge tour for you, and you've been touring quite a long time already on this particular tour, and head off to the Middle East, for the middle of this month. I'm just wondering from what you're expecting from touring in front of a Middle East audience. I know you've been to Jerusalem before and to Tel Aviv. Now you're going to the Gulf countries.
Well, I look forward to reconnecting with my family over here and making new friends and injecting this light inside the music, which is joy. You know, our message is very different than most Americans. Our message is about unity and harmony. It's not about power or domination. It's about the power of love, not the love for power.
It's interesting you mentioned that. We had an email that came in from Tel Aviv in Israel from Zach Harrison. And Zach said, I saw you play an amazing concert in Jerusalem in 1987. I'm glad that performers who played in Israel are no longer boycotted in Arab countries. I have to ask you, how much when you do travel around the world and there are political situations, how much do you find your concerts and organizing the tours get affected by the politics that you might encounter?
Well, we're like water. We don't really accentuate any flag or any kind of political or religion. We identify pretty much like Bob Marley, more like the air or more like water. We are here to serve humanity. We're not here to push a nation or push democracy or anything like that. We're here to just bring unity and harmony within the human family.
It was interesting you mentioned at the beginning about the message is different from most Americans. This email that came in from Michael Anderson in Oregon in the USA said, how can your music, which is our music, counteract the present destructive American military and financial influence internationally? Now, I guess by our music he means that perhaps you're perceived as an American artist, and that how can this message you're offering and the music you're offering counter that negative image of America?
That's a very good question. I would say that we bring compassion and forgiveness, kindness. There is no future without forgiveness. So we do not see eye to eye with the Vietnam War or this war or any war. As I said before, there's two forces, love and fear. Some people have the love for power, some people have the love for power, some people have the power of love. We have the power of love, and we don't come to any place in the world to represent the United States. We come to represent the heart and purity and innocence, joy, and the possibilities of creating peace on earth, like Bob Marley again or John Lennon. This is our message. It's not about the United States for us.
And of course you prove it in your style, because you fuse so many different styles from around the world. You've got soul, jazz, rock, and even the sort of latest hip-hop sounds as well. And I wonder, you're traveling off to the Middle East. Apart from the fact your music is very popular there, you're going to encounter some new sounds, I guess, with the Arab sounds and some of the Asian sounds. Have you ever thought about fusing some of those into your music?
Yes, we do, and we have. We love Chet Caleb. We love the gentleman who was singing with Sting. There's a lot of music that I want to integrate in who we are and what we do. Is basically the melody is a woman, the rhythm is the male, and the bed doesn't matter. Sooner or later, the melody and the woman and the man have to be natural, normal. So melody is the woman, rhythm is the male. That's how we look at it.
the way music has gone, certainly the hip-hop and rap culture, which a lot of it's had such a negative streak in it. I mean, it goes contrary to what you do with your message of unity. How do you regard that turn in music when it's gone towards the gangster rap and the negative vibe?
Well, it's the music of today. I'm sure that the Taliban and, I'm sure that rebels all over the world, they also rap. It's the music of young people today. That's what they communicate. In the 50s, it was Chuck Berry or Elvis Presley, and in the 70s, whatever, and the Beatles and Jimi Hendrix, Marvin Gaye. But this is the music of today, and this is how people communicate. And I choose to communicate with dignity and grace, and letting all my sisters know all over the world that we like to honor them. We like to make them feel special, so we treat them with dignity and grace and integrity, and we can still have the same joy in the music, the same power. We just don't have to be destructive or negative or insult anybody.
Carlos, we had lots of emails come in for you, and we told people, our viewers, that we were having you on the show. And I have to ask you this one that came in from New York in the USA. And Jael Kayed says, how have not only your tours, but your fans changed throughout the years?
People adapt. Some people stay the same and they refuse to change. And the only thing that's eternal is God's love for humanity. It doesn't matter what you call it, because God in reality doesn't have a religion. God is just love. So the people who are Santana fans, they understand that in order to keep up with what I'm doing, they have to also be perceiving themselves as multidimensional warriors rather than just being this or being that. Once you put a ceiling on your existence, you're not going anywhere. So once you call yourself a child of God, that's the best identity you can have, and if you want to, that's your identity, and this identity, and then looking for God. Well, God is right next to you. Always have, always will be. Whether you call it Allah or Buddha, Krishna, Jehovah, Christ, it's always next to you. It's a spirit. So you don't have to go look for Him, and you don't have to find your identity. Just remember, you're a child of God. These are the people who are going to hang with us, because they will not make life so complicated for themselves.
It's interesting listening to what you're saying there, and of course what I've read about you and what people know about you. You are a very spiritual person, and I wonder where those spiritual roots came from. Was it an early religious upbringing, your early life in Mexico before you moved to the US and so on, or is there something else that triggered that kind of spirituality you have?
Well, thank you for asking that. I believe something else triggered it. I was raised Catholic, and like a snake, I got rid of that skin. That didn't work for me because it was very guilt, shame, judgment, condemnation, fear. I can't work with that. Beauty, elegance, excellence, grace, dignity. I can work with that. So I basically adapted to certain essence from Zen or Shinto or Apaches or Hebrew. We take for everything, but we don't belong to not a specific, we just don't want to be tied down with a chain to something that if you don't believe this, we send you to hell. I don't want to believe in that. I'd rather be, again, like the water or like the wind, and be able to be of service to humanity rather than humanity be serving me.
It's interesting because you obviously your music is the dominant thing people know with your name. We had an email that came in from Mark Biggs here in Washington, D.C., and Mark says, when did you start the Milagro, the Miracle Foundation, and what was your inspiration for it?
Well, basically, Deborah and I, we started, I met her in '72, and around '73, we started giving money away, but we didn't do it the way people do it. We learned from Dave Matthews and the Grateful Dead, and we did it another kind of way, and then we applied, and now we have our own Milagro Foundation, which is a tax deductible, and it gives us more opportunity to give even more to children all over the world. It just comes from knowing that how much is enough, how many this, how many that can you have. It's important to share with the young people so they can have education and they can have possibilities and opportunities to develop their own lives and make their dreams come true as well.
Do you focus on particular regions with the Milagro? Do you look at certain areas of the world, you say, this is really where I'd like to target?
Well, right now it's South Africa and Mexico and here in the Bay Area. But we have known to be giving all over the world. It's just that right now, instead of giving a little bit to a bunch of places, we're going to give a lot to three to seven places instead of just trickling down. It doesn't make that much of an effect. So I would say South Africa, working with Mr. Desmond Tutu. We have a clinic in Mexico, the town where I was born, Outland, Jalisco. I'd like to do something in Tijuana for the people with the borders, and eventually, and maybe something here in San Francisco.
Yeah, I know you actually with the South Africa thing. You got involved with the Artists for New South Africa, ANSA, and the Amandla AIDS Fund as well. And I guess again, the music so dominates your image that people don't know about the work you do. But 5 years ago, you gave away pretty much the proceeds of your world tour to the HIV/AIDS. What initially got your attention on the whole HIV/AIDS issue? What was it that drew your attention to that particular cause?
I've been around Mr. Desmond Tutu and hearing from Mr. Harry Belafonte and Bill Cosby and Elton John and Mr. Mandela. So it's important, we're going to have the World Cup in 2010 in South Africa, and we look forward to coming over there with our music also, if possible, and creating a broader awareness that you can bring Coca-Cola or Nike, anything that you want to South Africa. But we hope that you can also bring something to help those children whose parents, both of them have died, and we just need more compassion and more forgiveness and more kindness, and that's kind of like what we like to promote with our tour calling Live Your Light.
It was interesting you mentioned people like Elton John and others involved in charity work. Now, have you found that artists such as yourselves, music artists who are established, who have a voice, they know they can make a difference, are you finding more and more people in your industry drawn to the idea of doing something that's socially valuable, some social activism? Is it more common nowadays?
That's all I've known since 1967. We work with the Black Panthers, we work with the Peace and Freedom Movement, we work with earthquake relief for Nicaragua, with the Rolling Stones. So whether it's Stevie Wonder or Prince or Sting, there's too many of us who we feel like food tastes better, a pillow feels more softer, and water feels better in your body when you share, just when you share your money with the world, because you can't take it with you anyway.
Well, you had a particularly good, I guess, upbringing in sense of an education coming from Mexico to the USA. And an email question we had from Bob Laribo in California touches on your past. It says, what does your experience as a Mexican immigrant to the US tell you about issues in the Middle East? Now, I guess what Bob is asking really is a reference to being an outsider, to someone who is not part of the original mainstream and being treated like an outsider. To what extent does that help you understand the world around you better?
It makes me understand really clearly that it's an illusion to think that I'm outside or that I'm a foreigner, or, what I don't want to happen here in California is what happens in Jerusalem between Palestinians and Hebrews. It can happen between Mexicans and white people. So we want to invest money in education so there'll be more unity and more harmony, more sharing. Instead of putting so many people in jail and spending so much money, we should invest some of that money into schools so people don't drop out. So we're actually very passive, gently, peacefully aggressive towards investing our money and dismantling where California is going. Because to me, some people only say, well, I'm into show business, I don't speak religion or politics. Well, that's okay, if you want to do that. However, I feel that because I grew up in the 60s, we were infected in a gentle way with consciousness revolution. So we are part of the 60s movement, where we want to create still a change. We're crazy because we actually do believe that peace is possible in our lifetime. There's many people like myself and Mother Teresa and Mr. Desmond Tutu and Sting and Prince and Stevie Wonder. We're not alone, and so we are all joining together and utilizing the music and the radio and the TV to bring more of a dimension of unity and harmony and compassion for this planet.
Now, I wonder how then you see what's been going on in the US. Obviously, immigration is a huge issue and directly affects you, of course, in places on the west coast of the USA. How do you regard, I've been reading more and more about tensions between the Latino community and the African American community. To what extent does that worry you? Do you see that kind of rift developing between the communities?
Yes, it's happening every day. People, they're killing themselves in jails, and it's like they pit them against each other. So we utilize music to, I have played in St. Quentin, and when we play, we play the kind of music that makes people dance instead of hurting each other. The Latinos and the Africans, the American Indians, the white people, all of a sudden, there's something about music that can remind you to become a child rather than a person with a lot of anger and a lot of issues and a lot of resentment. There's something about the music that invites you back into the center of your heart before you had all these issues, all these grievances, you know, which is just fear. You know, and there's a lot of white people with fear in California thinking that, you know, that we come here to take their jobs. First of all, it's California. We were here first. You know, white people came from Ireland and they came from Germany, but we were here first, you know, along with the American Indians. So they have like a convenient celestial amnesia, I believe. So I'm here to remind them that, look, this earth is one womb. We are all the baby. Let us behave and carry ourselves with a different kind of light, where you don't see anymore white, black, or Latino. You only see one family, and let us invest in our family so we can coexist in peace and with joy.
Well, I have to ask, you know, as we wrap up the interview, obviously what everyone is doing is watching what's happening in America. The critics of the current administration, George Bush's administration, feel that it divided people rather than united. And I wonder, when you look at the people lining up to take the White House next, is there anyone you have your eye on as a presidential candidate? Anyone who you feel might be able to unite Americans and the world?
I'd like to see Barack Obama or Hillary Clinton or both do it together. If it takes both of them to do it, they should both put their petty egos aside and actually both of them roll up their sleeve and get it done. I just don't want to see anybody from the Republican people, because then we go back to the caveman era. I mean, we already are in the caves. Now we're going to go back further back if we get somebody else from that camp. We need somebody who's more progressive with thinking human heart rather than investing in your rich white friends who you have in your pocket. They have you in their pockets. I think we should invest in people who have seriously compassion in their hearts and in their eyes. I see that in Hillary, and I see that in Barack Obama. Either one of those two would get it done.
Well, Carlos Santana, we wish you a lot of luck for your trip touring in the Middle East. Please come back and talk to us once you've done that. It'd be great to have you back on the show. Thank you, sir.
Peace. Best to your family. Bye-bye.
Thank you. And thank you for being with us. Don't forget, if you have any thoughts about pressing issues around the world, you can send your emails to riz@aljazeera.net. We'll see you next time. Don't forget, Street Talk is up next.